What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And I'm actually going to talk about two different Salinas Valley incidents. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on either one, so I hope you rock through the whole thing, okay? The first one I'm going to talk about is the most recent one, between the Crip and the Southsiders. Give you guys a little bit of the play-by-play on what really happened in this last incident, and maybe clear up some of the questions I've been hearing around that whole situation, okay? And then also the previous incident in Salinas Valley that happened on the 270 side, between blacks and raza, and you know, that started as kind of North blacks, but not really. And so I did a video about that. Bobby Silent Lopez was involved. Silencio, he was a part of the video, NF member. And so I made some mistakes in that. I made some rushes to judgment. I really work hard to not mess up on my videos so that I don't have to come on here and I don't have to take videos down and be like, hey, I'm gonna stand on business, I made a mistake. I really hate doing that. So I try to not put myself in that position, but that's where I'm at now, and it is what it is. I'm gonna give you guys the truth, okay? So quickly with this one, the incident with the Crips and the Southsiders, right? So to quick rewind, High Desert, OG Crip, you know, elderly dude. He probably wouldn't like me calling him elderly, but he'd been in prison since 1979, right? I was 2 years old, contrary to what a wild situation may want some of you guys to believe. That's really how old I was. So they get into it in Salinas Valley. Now, again, to clear some things up, I've heard some comments about, well, maybe the Crip didn't actually book him. Maybe he just KO'd him and it's been exaggerated or this or that. I can tell you that the Crip got a deal referral for booking the dude. Like, it really happened. It's not exaggeration. It's not propaganda, okay? Dude's in a cell. The MM member is on his door, drunk, talking reckless, because the COs had went and told some of the other guys that the blacks were filing 602s, messing up canteens, something like that. I don't know all the details on that, but had instigated a thing of, hey, these guys are writing 602s and that's messing it up for you. Doing what some COs do, instigate conflict. And it worked. This MM member took the bait. He already had been talking reckless with this Crip and with people in the past, so it was nothing new. The Southsiders had been got at about it before and had chose not to do anything, which is not a surprise because he can't really do anything because the guy's a Mexican Mafia member, so there's no rules for him, right? He gets to do what he wants. So, nonetheless, Crip tells him, hey, man, when the door pops, it's me and you. Door popped and it was him. You know, it was them. And I want to clear something up because I've done a little bit of content around this and a lot of other people have too. But a point that's important, I think, is, you know, we talk about this gang stuff. Theoretically, and I don't know the influence the Crip had on the yard, whatever, so I'm not trying to put jackets on anybody. But just thinking, not from group segment standpoint, but just prison and politics and doing time, things could have gone different, right? The first move is to get at the group and tell the group, hey, one of your people is acting out of pocket. Can you handle it? That was done. It didn't resolve it. It's not surprising. Now this Crip, he could have turned around, theoretically, and gone out to the yard. And I'm not saying his name. I haven't said his name. I haven't said the Mexican Mafia member's name either. And I've said that I won't, so I'm not. But it has come out that the dude's a Crip from the San Diego area, so I feel okay with that. A lot of people know who it is, but I'll leave that to them. So, nonetheless, he could have gone out to the yard and got at the San Diego Crips. Got at the whole Crip car. Got at the blacks, whatever. And been like, hey, man, I'm tired of this. Let's get off, right? He could have possibly maybe gone and gotten some youngsters, some other dudes on the yard, and sent them on a mission. Again, I'm not saying dude got pulled like that, but just theoretically, right? There's other stuff that could have happened that would have made it a Crip Southsider issue, right? Or a black Southsider issue, or a San Diego, you know, it would have made it a group thing if he would have done that. And I'm not saying he should have done that. I'm glad that he didn't. But I just want to point out again, in this rush to make things look racial and this rush to make things look gang-related, this is about as non-racial and non-gang related as possible. You know, you have one man who was offended by one man, and he dealt with it with that man. Wasn't no sneak stuff. It was head up. Look, man, this is what's going to happen. And it did. And so the fact of who gets the short end of the stick, and that doesn't really matter. Like in a one-on-one, that's not the thing, right? The thing is, it's one-on-one. And I think that's what the black position was when he pulls up to Salinas Valley and they're told, hey, you know, you need to get this dude off the yard. Bro, this wasn't a gang thing. This wasn't a group thing. This was as one-on-one as you could possibly have in the Department of Corrections today. It's actually consistent with the principles of the end of hostilities. And it's not because he's black, and it's not because he's a Crip, and it's not because I don't like the Mexican Mafia. It's just, as a convict, as somebody that's done time, it makes a lot of sense to me how this unfolded. It's unfortunate. It could have been avoided if you didn't have people walking around the yard feeling like they're God. But it is what it is, right? So, anyways, won't get into more of that. So, dude, San Diego Crip, he gets moved on, man. What happens? There's different stuff. It was this building or that building. He was inside. He was outside. Yada, yada. Who won? Who lost? Winning and losing is kind of hard to gauge. It depends on your point of view. But I'm going to tell you what happened. The Crip is coming back from work, right? And because of where he works, you got to go through, you know, metal detector scan. So if he was the type of person to carry a weapon, that he would not likely have a thing. So he's coming from work, getting escorted to the building, okay? It's a 180 yard. If you've been on a 180 yard, this is going to make a lot of sense. If you haven't, it might be a little bit confusing, and I'm not going to go into super detail because it'll make it more confusing. So just kind of rock with me. Don't nitpick in the comments and shit, okay? So they're getting escorted to the building, right, after work. Day room's open, right? Count's clear. Day room's open, so there's people in the day room. You go up to the door that goes from the yard to in the building. Dude stand there, door opens, boom, here comes an arm with a piece. Okay, whoop, whap, you know, block stab piece, you know, kind of gets it, he takes it, fires on dude, catches another hot piece, and he's leaking, right? He's booked. Now there's another guy standing next to him, right? Who also takes flight, knee jerk, black guy, right? Big boy, and I believe he's not affiliated, you know, if I got this right. But either way, he just as an instinct, right? He tags a couple Southsiders right there. That probably has a lot to do with saving this Crip's life in terms of he kind of busted up the play a little bit, right? It was supposed to be an ambush, you know, and ambush didn't quite work because, you know, A, he fought back, and B, there was another person there that was able to kind of step up. So if the Crip moves backwards away from the building, now he's in a wide open area, right? He kind of beat on the yard. It probably goes different. And nothing really probably unfolds in the day room because the day room doesn't know. But instead, he pushes through, right? Getting hit, getting stabbed, fighting, pushes through. Now he becomes visible to the broader day room. Hey, you can clearly see that he's leaking. You know, it's not like he was getting stabbed in the calf, right? So he got upper body size. You can see he's leaking. They know what time it is. Blacks see it and they react, right? They react on the Southsiders that are around them. Now, this part is just me kind of speculating. Okay, I don't know how this really unfolded, but just kind of looking at it, I'm curious if all the Southsiders in the building knew that this was going to happen, because there was 4 people total stabbed in this incident, right? The only black one was the Crip. The rest of them were Southsiders. So I would think, again, just kind of based on my experience in prison, but that was 20 years ago. But based on my experience in prison, if my homeboys are going to make a move and they're going to go do this pegada against this other group, and there's already like some tension there, and I'm going to be in a day room with that other group, when we try to just do a removal of one of theirs, I'm going to be ready for the pushback. I'm going to be ready in case, you know, the guy next to me that looks like the guy who just got blasted has a problem. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Again, I have no idea. It's just interesting to me how the result played out in the day room, right? In terms of who was more seriously injured after that initial attack. And so, and for those that are going to get in the comments, oh, Rascal's giving up game, this and that. Everything's on video in prison now. They have videos for all this stuff. Folks are getting DA referrals. All the people's been snatched up. I'm not giving you anything that's not already known by those that are there, right? So miss me with all that shit. It is what it is. It's public record at this point, okay? So yeah, that's how that goes. And See, Upper is off lockdown now because they don't have no Southsiders on that yard. Um, so they're off. You need workers and that kind of stuff. But the rest of the general population in Salinas Valley is still locked down. I'm not sure they got a PC yard over there, and I don't know if that yard's locked down or not. I haven't talked to anybody there, but the general population is again, except for C Upper because they don't have, they don't have Southsiders. I find it hard to believe that this incident ends here, and it's not because I want it to continue. It's not because I'm choosing sides. It's not because of any of that stuff. I don't want violence. I don't want violence amongst anybody. If there has to be violence, I would hope that that violence is as minimal as possible, involves the least amount of people possible, and as least lethal, if that's the thing, to kind of accomplish what the goal is and keep it pushing. So I hope that doesn't happen. I just find it hard to believe that it ends here, But we will find out very soon because they're not going to stay on lockdown long. I think 2 weeks is the max, and so at some point very soon they're going to start letting some people out, and we're going to see what happens when that unfolds. Now to the other Salinas Valley incident, that one was pretty simple, right? It was simple but weird, and it was different. It was not the same as this. People have compared the two, and it's apples and oranges, okay? Because what happened right here in Salinas Valley was targeted. It was planned. It was intentional. It was set up, right? Everybody knows that. What happened in Salinas Valley was spontaneous. It just kind of happened, and nobody really knew what was going on, and so folks jumped to each other's aid. You had the JCat dude, I believe from the Bay, comes out, takes off on a northerner, boom. That northerner standing in front of a shower, right? He's posted up at a shower. The person in that shower is Bobby Lopez, aka Silencio, aka Silent, NF member, was on death row, blah, blah, blah. So content is made about that, right? Made about that incident. And then another black dude jumped in on the initial black guy who jumped on a northerner because he saw the kind of goofy move. But then that led to other Africanos looking, and it kind of just looked like blacks and Mexicans were fighting, so they sort of jumped in. Some paisas looked, they're like, hey, it looks like it's blacks and Mexicans, So there's a lot of northerners involved on the Raza side, but also a couple other groups, paisas and Southsiders. And Africanos from everywhere. You had Bloods, you had Crips, you had Bay dudes. It became racial. It didn't go anywhere after that. It didn't continue after that. Because when the dust settled, everybody was able to come to a clear understanding of what happened. And it's just one of those unfortunate things in prison. It just, you look up and people who look like you are getting off on, people that look different, and vice versa. You're going to jump in the mix for the people that look like you, right? And it really was just turned into kind of a race thing. And again, it's unfortunate. Thankfully, nobody got seriously injured. And thankfully, it didn't continue. Cooler heads were able to prevail. I did a video about that, and I was very vocal in questioning what happened with Silent, what happened with Silencio. Because there was stuff said around, well, if Silencio was involved, the whole thing would have blown up. Yeah, you all go up, it's no peace after that. The snap, because he's an NF member, right? And, them dudes are sensitive, right? So, same as the inmate, God forbid. So I spoke on that. Now, I had heard from multiple people different accounts of what had transpired there, right? And a lot of content was made about that stuff. And so I dropped my video because the one thing nobody was addressing is what happened. How come Silent wasn't involved? If it's a melee and it's black and brown, and if we're going to make a point to say that if this individual was touched, it would have gone sideways. But how come nobody's answering the question of why this individual wasn't touched? It would have to be because he wasn't involved. But why wasn't he involved? Like, if it's a race thing, it's a race thing. And there was different speculation, different little things being said. But nothing was clear. Nobody addressed that point. So that's why I made a video asking it, right? And kind of addressing it. Right after I make that video, like next day, day after, whatever, I get feedback saying, oh, well, the guy who was initially taken off on, the norteño who was fired on initially by the JCat, he fell into the shower door and locked Silent in there. That's why he was never involved. Now, that story is coming from somebody who had already given their version of what happened. They already, prior to me doing the video, they'd already said, oh, here's the play-by-play. But how you leave that part out of the play-by-play? So I was skeptical on the accuracy of it, right? And I was like, nah, I feel like folks are trying to spin a narrative now to kind of protect the image, you know? So I didn't take the video down. And then I get feedback from other folks. Well, what happened is the fellas locked him in there. So, you know, to make sure. Okay, well, that's bad business. You know, different things were said. None of it made a lot of sense. But all of it was coming from individuals who would have a bias towards a particular narrative, right? And as much love as I got for a lot of people, right, I wasn't going for it. And in my time in Salinas Valley, we didn't lock ourselves in the shower. We tried our best not to. You're in prison. You don't want to lock yourself into someplace unless you have to. The idea is to not be locked behind things. And it's a safety issue as well, locking yourself in the shower. You already got a security post. Why you got to lock yourself in there? So it just didn't make sense to me. But I did say, if I hear from somebody who doesn't have an agenda, right, or who I would think does not have an agenda, because they have 115 hearings. Again, everything in prison's on camera now. People were going to their 115 hearings. A lot of Africanos were involved. They were going to 115 hearings. And they're seeing the images of them involved in the conflict, right? You got a 115 participating in a riot. Let's watch you in this riot. This is what you're doing. Well, some of that is going to catch what happened, right? And I'm like, I want to hear from somebody that's more reliable, who says that really happened, because it just didn't make a lot of sense. Well, I heard from folks, and I heard from people who said you can see the guy fall into the door. It really does look like that could have happened. Okay, you can't say 100%, but he does fall into the door in such a way that yes, he could have inadvertently locked him in. So I took the video down. Also, somebody had said that the picture that I used for Silent on the thumbnail was not accurate. It was a different Silent. I got the picture from a public source, and it's labeled as being him. I don't know if that's true or not, if it really was him or not. But I took the video down anyways, right? And that's why, because as much as I say everything I just said, I insinuated that a dude locked himself in the shower, or that his people locked him in the shower and were okay with it, or that was protocol, or whatever it was, when that's not what happened. I don't believe that that's what happened. How would it have unfolded if dude doesn't fall into the shower? I don't know, but I'm not going to try to use that to justify how wrong I was in what I said. So, again, I try not to make content that would lead me to have to come back here and tell you guys I messed up. I dropped the ball on this one. I got a little too ahead of myself, and I'm sure it has to do with because of how I view the NF in the state. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna come on here and lie about them, right? And I don't got love for any prison gang, you know. So it's not just them, right? But in this case, they were the ones at the center of the story, and so regardless of my personal feelings, I still have a duty to come on here and be honest and truthful for you. And I was honest and truthful in my opinions, but the facts weren't accurate, and that matters. That matters a lot. And so that's why that video was taken down, is because I have enough reason to believe that Silent got locked in the shower, not of his own effort and not as a coordinated thing by anybody to protect him. And I said the opposite in my video. At minimum, I implied the opposite in my video. And so that's not fair. And I took the video down. I'll do better next time. You know, so anyways, that's what it is, man. Help others move to excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. I'm out of work for a while, so you should be seeing me on YouTube a little bit more, and I got a lot of content planned for you guys. So take care.